Welcome to the Business as Mission podcast, dedicated to those who long to see God glorified in business and the nations reached for Christ. Your host is Mike Bayer, longtime BAM leader and founder of Third Path Initiative, an online education resource for starting and growing BAM businesses around the world.
Well, welcome to another episode of the Business as Mission podcast. I am here with I can't say old friend, but not really a new friend either, Daniel Madapur from Bangalore, India. And we've been working together for a while on a conference coming up in Bangalore. And I thought, well, you know what? We got to get Daniel on the podcast. He's got such a heart for the Lord. He's got such a heart for BAM, and I think a great story. So Daniel, first of all, just welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Mike. I'm just looking forward to this, and I'm happy to join you today.
Yes, this is one of the few times we've actually had a meeting with Daniel that is at a decent hour of his day. Normally we're catching him and some of his brothers over there kind of in the late at night or even in the middle of the night because of time changes. But this is dinner time, so he can relax and we can have a good conversation. Daniel, as we were talking about before the show started, obviously this is just, we call this BAM Stories. It's just this, we're trying to just tell the stories of people who are engaged in business to reach the nations, engaged in business to impact their community. You're a prime candidate. So just give us a little story about yourself and how God led you on the journey from just, I guess, well, we'll let you tell the story from into BAM. How did you get here? Let's say that.
Sure. Wonderful job, Mike. I think born into a Orthodox first convert family, my parents were sold out for Christ. And I was just growing up, playing instruments in the church, being regular in the Sunday school. Somehow I kind of slipped away and just wanted to kind of stay away from church. But however, I used to like the stories, and Sunday evenings were testimonial times where people share the testimonials and, just to be fun, people talking about their lives, and all the funny things that happen in their lives. It was amazing. Then I just wanted to get into business. I don't know why, basically, of course, probably it could be because my parents were kind of struggling. Basically my father had a secure job, and he was involved in ministries as well. So probably the support that is coming to the ministry could be one of the reason. And I wanted to earn money, not to enjoy myself, but to help people. That's how my journey began. When I went and told my parents that I wanted to start a business, they literally were shocked, and they said, they literally wanted to call the pastor and cast out demon out of me. So growing up as a rebellious kid, I was determined to get started with business. At the age of 25, I went to a neighboring state in Tamil Nadu, and I grew up in Karnataka and started a business there. 2.5 years into business, I lost everything. And I was contemplating suicide. And my mom had a habit of slipping a Bible into my baggage. And this day, it so happened that the Bible was lying on my table, and I decided to pick it up because I never had friends there. All I had is clients. And I just picked up the Bible and started reading from Psalms, first chapter onwards. And I was able to relate my life with King David's life. And one thing which stood out was that he had hope, though he was going through a lot of, difficult, challenging situation in his life. And I felt that is a missing piece. That is when it was probably the Holy Spirit prompting me to cling on to that hope. And, that's how my life changed, not my business.
Wow. Yeah. So he met you. The business failed, I take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was so amazed to know during one of my biblical entrepreneurship programs, when the facilitator told me that business is also calling, and I was wanting my parents to be there and listen to that. It's because they kind of thought that ministry is only becoming a pastor or missionary, and that was how my life began into business. And I got connected with BAM during this global conference, and I was was very happy to develop networks from there onwards and getting to understand how BAM works and stuff like that.
So, I really appreciate you saying that, because I think about, we tend to think about the sacred secular dichotomy as a purely Western issue. And you just proved, no, it's a global issue still, that the belief that if you love Christ, you go into ministry, not business. And I know you said it with a smile on your face, but wanting to call the pastor over to counsel you because you want to go into business. I'm sure their opinion has changed over the years, but that's it's so much more common than any of us, I think, globally realize.
Absolutely, Mike. According to Indian culture, and as I earlier mentioned, that I grew up in an Orthodox family, where the money is, there your heart is, and there is a lot of misconception about that, but they don't know the truth that God is, God is a God of, riches, all riches, and He wants to bless His children with wealth. And He is for creating wealth. That was somehow missing. And I think slowly in India and in Asia, the perception is slowly changing, which is good.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And it's interesting because I know, early on when I was doing a lot of teaching about BAM and I would mention wealth creation, you could see many Christians, you could see on their face, they were struggling with the idea of creating wealth because they took it as creating wealth so that they could live an easy life. And it's like, no. Wealth creation is obviously to provide for you and your family, but also for ministry, but also for the blessing of others. And I would say to our listeners, if you haven't read Mats Tunahag's excellent paper on the Wealth Creation Manifesto, please find it online. I think you can get it at Lausanne. But it does a great job of explaining for believers what the role of wealth is in society. And you're saying the same thing. So it's great to hear that. Thank you. So you got connected to BAM, or the concept of BAM, through the BAM Global Congress. Was that the one, the live one, or was that just a couple of years ago when we were remote?
That was a live online version.
Yeah.
So I think probably it's in 2021, I guess.
That is a Congress that, I'm not thankful for the pandemic, but I'm thankful for the fact that we did do that one virtually, because it just thrust us into a truly global, very diverse community that has really made a difference. And you're a great example of that. So as you've moved into the BAM space, what is it that you're pursuing? What does God put on your heart to do through your business? What is your business, first of all, and what is it God's given you to do through it?
Thanks for asking this question, Mike. This is quite amazing, actually. I didn't realize that I was into BAM. I was just kind of doing things, and inculcating Christian values, kingdom values into business and stuff like that. And the first business, as I mentioned earlier, I failed. And second time, I got into business accidentally while I was working for an NGO. And I was just helping a carpenter set up a woodworking factory. At some point, the carpenter decided to back off. And we established some of the contacts for him and designed some projects. And, suddenly when he decided to back off, he said, we tried to convince him. And he said that, I'm not ready to take it at this point in time because it's kind of a huge responsibility. And we just thanked him, saying that, money was there, but thank God he didn't use it.
Yeah.
So it was there. And, we just set him off. And after a couple of months, a client calls me up and he says that, basically the design that you created was amazing. And would you want to execute? So I'm ready to execute the project with you. My intention was to connect this carpenter so that he could execute the product, but I was not able to trace because of poor communication. And he never had a cell phone at the time. And ultimately, I took up the project and executed the project. And the client liked it. And I said, okay, probably God wants me to come back into business. This time around, that was accidental. And this time around, I got plugged into a Christian business group in Campus Crusade for Christ in Bangalore. And this kind of greatly helped me to at least understand that there are a lot of entrepreneurs who go through challenges.
Mm.
And entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and at least I was comforted by at least knowing that there are similar people going through similar challenges. So I'm not all alone. So that was great comfort. And I got very actively involved in this Christian business. And I was just listening to stories. And as I mentioned earlier, I like to listen to stories. I love testimonies. And while I was listening to the stories, I felt there is a need that a lot of entrepreneurs who are struggling like me. So probably they're going through challenges. They kind of got into a shell. They don't want to come out. They don't want to discuss with anybody else. I thought that getting these stories across to them would really help them, at least to understand that they're not alone. So, and I was part of this business group for almost 4 years. I've seen a lot of challenges that business people go through. And we just wanted to come out with a magazine, at least to publish the stories, along with other helpful articles. And I never knew that I was already working for BAM.
I love that you said I kind of got into it accidentally. I think most of us that is how we got into it. We didn't know what we were doing till we looked back and said, "Oh, okay, I get it." So you started, and another I just comment on something you said, which I think is really critical, and I hope our listeners will share your message with others. Entrepreneurs, Christian entrepreneurs, are not unique in this. Entrepreneurs feel very alone. They feel they have no one to talk to, no one to confide in, no one's there to encourage them. And I think a lot of people on the outside look and say, well, they don't need it, but they do need it. And what comes to my mind, of course, is Elijah. Lord, I'm the only one left. I and only I, which wasn't true,
Right.
but it's what he felt, right? And so being able to reach out and create something that speaks to entrepreneurs from a business perspective, a biblical perspective, is really powerful. And that's the magazine that you started. Tell us a little bit more about that, and we'll put the website for the magazine in the show notes so that, again, listeners can get connected and see what you're doing in person.
Sure. And we did interview quite a few people, and and everybody liked the idea of a magazine. They can at least quietly read those magazines, the stories, and along with that, there were some of the best business practices and some of the wellness topics, which would be really helpful, because I've heard a lot of people who kind of didn't want to reach out for any help. And one of the main issue that we kind of felt, that people come out and join the business groups seeking funding. And during our core meetings, there were a lot of people complaining that people just come for funding and nothing else. Then I saw that there's nothing bad in it. Basically, there's a need. Without investing money into business, you cannot make money. And I felt that if the funding is one of the area that they're looking for, at least we'll try to help them. And when we looked at some of the profiles of the companies, we felt that they are not investment ready. That is when we thought, along with the magazine, along with publishing the stories, we also need to help people to do the due diligence, and have proper accounting system and pay taxes. Those are the things that kind of helps them to avail loan in case they need to. And one case we heard about is that he's a proprietor company, and they had a good amount of turnover, but they couldn't avail loan because of some of the due diligence not being done properly. They're missing out many opportunities to grow the businesses through this.
Just a quick note, not to interrupt, but for many of our listeners, when they hear the word turnover, they think loss of employees. And you're using it in a very different way. You're using it in the more global way, which is basically it's inventory turnover. It's the sale of your service or product. So it's a good word. in the West, it's like, oh, that's a bad thing. But no, this is a good thing. So what has been the response to the magazine? Once you started putting it out, what did your readers say?
The readers were quite positive about it, and the kind of content we were kind of planning to publish. We just did a soft launch just before the COVID, and we printed these magazines. And after COVID, things changed. The behavior of the readership, the audience changed completely. People moved into completely digital space. Now we kind of working out, a kind of a platform where there are videos, there are articles, there are podcasts in a single platform. So this we are planning to launch this December 2022.
Oh, okay. All right, good. Well, and that's like it's almost like the last 2 years didn't happen from a business perspective. So many things just froze in space.
We'll be right back after a short break. Third Path Initiative is your go-to site for accessible, affordable BAM training. Learn about the biblical foundations for business as mission, ethical capitalism, BAM strategies, and how to become a kingdom employee. It's all at thirdpathinitiative.com.
So now that it's coming out, really starting to look forward to that. What's your vision for all of that? What's the dream that God has given you?
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And I was just kind of figuring out what my call in life is. For so many years, I was just struggling to understand. And later, I think 3-4 years ago, when I was taking up the journalism course with MTI, and one of the assignment was to do your purpose. What's your life purpose? And during this time, I kind of figured out my life's purpose is to bridge the gaps. And, between the entrepreneur, just try to help them and create good companies, who follow kingdom principles and stuff like that. So the name of the magazine is The Edge. The acronym for EDGE is the Empower, Develop Global Entrepreneurship. And this is what we're trying to do.
I love it. And I love the concept of a bridge because, again, you were talking earlier about the isolation, the sense of being on an island and being able to bridge that and build relationship and encouragement and a support network. I expect that's going to be tremendously successful as it starts getting its traction.
I just wanted to share a small story, what happened while I was growing up, Mike, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yeah, this basically, when I was doing this MTI assignment about, discovering myself to bridge the gap came about when I was thinking, Lord, what do I do? What do I write? What is my life purpose? I was just kind of waiting on the Lord to reveal to me. And it so happened that God took me back to my childhood when I was about maybe 10 years old. Playfully, we were living in a quarters, in a government quarters, and we were kind of trying to play with some of the construction work that was happening. And I identified that there was a problem. There was a gutter where, people kind of come cycling all the way up to the point. Then they have to get down from the bicycle, lift up the bicycle, cross the gutter, then keep cycling. And I don't know where the thought came from. And there were some bricks there. So I kind of tried to place the bricks across the gutter to build a bridge. And, and I couldn't, it was often falling down. Then the older boy came up to me and he just kind of placed the bricks in such a way that they kind of stood there. And there was cement and we kind of cemented it and made it strong. And just went back home that day. And next day morning, I just opened my window from where I could see. And there was a cycle that was kind of passing by over the bridge. And I was so surprised. I ran out and just wanted to see, how this happened. Then I recalled that, the previous day we built a bridge there. And that bridge lasted for a long time. So I was able to relate this incidents in my life and to my call.
Oh, what a great picture. Great visual. I mean, I always, when I'm teaching leadership, I always make the point that we use the vision word because it is about it's visual. It's what you see, right? And then you've got to take what you see and turn it into words so somebody else can hear it, put it back in their brain and turn it into a picture. You just did that, right? That's what a great picture you painted. I thank you for that. So, Daniel, we're working on a conference coming up in Bangalore. Edge Magazine is one of the sponsors. Really, you're the primary sponsor and host. Tell us about that and what. And I know we don't have a lot of listeners in South India yet, but hopefully, maybe by then we will. But just give the message. Tell people what it is and how they could be a part of it.
Sure. During this pandemic time, we're not very actively working on the magazine, but then we were kind of observing many businesses, the struggles they're going through, and most of the businesses were shut down. We were kind of understanding very closely, observing these businesses. And we found that there is a lot more that we could do. There are some experts in the field, and they kind of know what has to be done to revive those businesses, how these businesses can pivot their product and services so that they can be self-sustainable. And this we kind of wanted to put together and provide a training and skills to the businesses, existing businesses, so that they would understand, or put in paper, like, basically this business is no more working and we need to kind of pivot into something else, how they can make that shift, in the product and services. And this is basically what we are trying to do right now. And there are many businesses in India struggling. And as we know that we don't come from a business family, but during this pandemic, a lot of people in India came some brilliant ideas, and but there is no skill. The ideas are there, but they don't know how to kickstart their businesses. Mm. And this is basically what we're trying to do. So we just want to provide training and skill to these entrepreneurs and these business leaders so that they can be self-sustainable and they can take off their businesses. And there are few businesses, amazing stories. During pandemic, we kind of heard that they made more business than ever before during pandemic season. Mm-hmm. Such a great testimonies, actually. And when we asked how this happened, we don't know, brother, how this happened, but my wife is praying for me, for my business. And probably because of that, and it's so amazing to listen to such kind of stories, actually. So this is what we're trying to do, Mike.
I love that. And again, it's just it's so easy to share testimonies in church about what God is doing, but we don't do it very often in business. And so to be able to tell the stories, the struggles, the things that God has done to deliver businesses, to help them pivot, to show them a new way. Like you say, some made more business during the pandemic than ever before. How did that happen? Well, let's share that story. How would somebody learn more about this conference? A couple of days of live training in Bangalore, and then a conference the third day. We call it pitch party, but a pitch ceremony, an award ceremony, a celebratory dinner. It's really going to be a lot of fun, I think, from everything I've seen. How would somebody learn more about it if they were inclined to be involved in some way?
There is a website where they can log into, that is theedgebizmag.com. So people can log in and just discover more about this. And this is kind of a very unique program that we've designed. Of course, you have been part of this, Mike, and even Bob also was part of this. So we just don't want to do the conference and, just go away, having some takeaways. But we just wanted to kind of work very closely with the business leaders and the entrepreneurs. This is the first time we're attempting such kind of a thing. So once the person registers, once a business leader registers for either startup or scale up. So basically, startup is for the ideation and how to kickstart the business. And for scale up is basically how we can pivot and grow your business. So once the participant signs up by paying the money, and they will be assigned a coach where they will get access to the third path study material, the videos, and they can watch the videos, and they can also reach out to the coach to have, in case they have any clarification, they can do that. And the coach will walk with them even after the conference, at least for another maybe couple of months, so that they would know, if everything, whatever they learned, if they are putting into practice. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I love that what you're building over there is not an event. I mean, it will be an event, but for so many, the event is the end of the story. And in this case, the event is the beginning of the story, and building a community, an ecosystem, if you will, of BAM entrepreneurs and BAM business owners, of people that are kingdom-minded and want to see God work in and through their business. This will be an ongoing community that will come out of this conference. Is everything I pray about and think about for it says that this is not the end. This is the beginning. And I love that. All right. So Daniel, we're going to come to the end of the podcast here. And I want to give you free reign to share anything from your own experience, your own wisdom or maybe your struggle, wherever it comes from. What is one important thing that you feel like God has taught you that you want to share with the greater BAM community?
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned and often put into practice, Mike, is this. They say that, entrepreneur never gives up. But I would say entrepreneur gives up. And next day morning, he comes and he starts from where he left the previous night. So he never gives up, actually. So that is the passion. That is the calling, the entrepreneur has. And about that, I would say that, we should never lose hope. We just keep trying, even though it's very hard for us to do. Sometimes, as entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, we kind of lack motivation at times. Everything dries up. But having a fellowship, reaching out to another entrepreneur or a business coach or a friend, just go out for a cup of coffee, talk about it, and come back. You feel so refreshed. And I'm sure that, you just do it prayerfully, and God will give you energy and strength to keep moving.
Amen. Well, that's your own testimony.
Absolutely.
You had lost hope, and God met you with the words of hope from the life of David. So that's what you want to share with other people. I love it, and I agree with you. We don't talk about hope enough, and entrepreneurs don't talk about their struggles with each other enough. So, what a great vision, Daniel. Thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate your being here. To the listeners, ways to connect with Daniel online will be available in the show notes. I encourage you to go to the website, edgebizmag.com. I think I got that right. It will be it'll be correct in the show notes. And just check it out. There's a lot going on, and this is the beginning. For those of you who aren't that familiar with what's going on in India, business is really beginning to take off. And it's a great time to be involved. There's a lot of businesses that are rising up. A lot of businesses with a kingdom perspective, and I'm excited to see that happening in what has now become the most populous country on the planet. So this is amazing what God is doing in that country. So Daniel, again, thank you so much for being with us. It's been great to see you again.
Lovely, Mike. Pleasure time. Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Business as Mission podcast. We invite you to become part of the story by supporting the BAM podcast at patreon.com/BAM Stories. There's a link in the notes with this episode. For more information, go to thirdpathinitiative.com or tryventure.com. Please share this podcast and give us a review wherever you listen. If you'd like to help with expenses and expansion of the Business as Mission podcast, you can become a donor through Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/BAM Stories. This podcast is brought to you by generous donors and sponsors. You can become one by going to patreon.com/BAM Stories.